Well, we're here today because this is a very important piece of work for the STUC LGBT Workers Committee. And during our last 3 conferences, a common theme has come up around education and around bullying and homophobia. There's no place for homophobia in any part of our society, and the scarring effects of being on the receiving end of homophobia at a young age, and the fact that homophobia in our schools often goes unchallenged and unchecked, makes this issue of particular importance to our committee and to us as trade unionists. We also organise teaching and non-teaching staff within education who are also negatively affected by this culture of abuse. So for that reason, we've organised this Fringe meeting today, together with our colleagues in the Youth Committee, and we thank them very kindly for their support. And we're keen to shine a light on this issue. We're also really pleased to have a range of young speakers, and you see them before you, so you're not going to have to listen to an old codger like me for too long, which is a positive for a start. And they're obviously going to share their experience with us at school and reflect on how their experience has affected them and their future choices with regard to education and careers.
And when you start to break it down, so I looked at gender stereotypes, and when wee boys and girls are born, you don't come out the womb and you think, oh, I'm a wee boy, I like blue stuff, or I'm a wee girl and I like pink stuff. This is a societal thing which we teach children, and we make them believe that it's particular cultural norms, that you start to behave a certain way, or you have to conform to society. And recently with my work, I went to a BBC event and we spoke to young women about sport and things like that. And this girl played rugby, and she said, I feel like I can't play rugby. She was 16. She was like, I feel like I'm getting discriminated against. People are talking about me in my school because they're saying that if I play rugby, how can I have makeup and how can I do my hair? And she says, I don't feel like I should be forced to behave or look a certain way just because I want to play sport. And that's the problem with society. We need to be equal, we need to be promoting diversity, and not everyone's the same. And also, when you look at that, she talks about being bullied in the schools. When I was researching for this event, I noticed that statistics showed that 10% of all teenagers who are bullied actually try to commit suicide. That's a cultural problem in our society that we need to address now, not tomorrow, right now.
Hello everyone, my name's Susanna, I'm 17 years old, and as the chair said, I'm at 6th year in Fringe Academy, and this week is actually my last week. Right? I'd like to start with an imaginary exercise. I always start with all of my speeches. So imagine you've got a bit of paper. If you do have a spare bit of paper, hold it in your hands. And what I want you to do is I want you to crumple it up, rip it up, stomp on it, whatever you want to do. Just imagine it with your head if you do not have. There we go. Pretty much. It's away. And now I want you to think about trying to take back those actions. How can you make that bit of paper look exactly like it was when you first had it in your hand? And the thing is, you can't. You can't take away the wrinkles, you can't take away the scars, you can't take away any of the rips in that bit of paper. And that's exactly what it's like when you're bullied. No matter how many times someone says, I'm really sorry for what I've done, I'm really sorry for what I said to you, it will always, always stay in your head. It will never, ever leave you. In 2012, I decided to come out as gay to my friends, my school and my family. And I was hoping that I would have this amazing accepting reception from everybody going, yeah, cool, I accept you. But actually, I fell out the closet and landed flat on my face. And it was one of these experiences that just, you were shocked. I was expecting to come out and everyone would give me hugs and I would be totally supportive and they would talk to me about it. I didn't have that at all. And for the next 9 months in my school and outside of school, I was heavily bullied for who I was. And I was bullied for who I loved. It wasn't because of the way I dressed. I'm not this stereotypical lesbian, as a lot of people tell me that I look straight, when actually I'm not. I'm completely the opposite. And I was bullied simply because I would look at a girl and think, yeah, okay, she's really pretty. and maybe I might fall in love with her someday. And that was why I was bullied in my school. My experience of bullying involved a lot of name calling. And it wasn't the type of name calling that would be right in your face. It was ones that was like whispers. So you're walking down the corridor and you just hear them surrounding your head. And they just echo through your head for the rest of the day. And it'll be one of these things that haunts you. It haunts you for the weeks and the months that pass, no matter how long it goes on. And even when I tried to ignore those voices, there would be post-it notes on my seat from other people saying homo, lesbo, and the most common dyke. That was very popular for me in my classes. The torment stalked me everywhere. And even in the comfort of my own home and my own room, I was still bullied through the form of social media. And social media is one of these forms that can happen anywhere. It's on the go with the mobile networks. You can send a message to anybody at any time and they will get it. And it follows you everywhere. I cannot emphasise that enough. When you are bullied for anything, or if you're discriminated against, if they go to social media or if they have your number, that's it. You cannot escape it. You cannot just hide in a room.
So I'll say I'm Jordan. I'm actually younger of the two by almost an hour. And my brother was obviously, as we mentioned before, is transgender, so was actually born my identical twin sister. And it wasn't up until about 4 or 5 years ago, Matt came up to me and just went, "Would you like a brother?" And I went, "Is Mum pregnant?" And I went, "No, I want to be your brother." And he's like, "No, you can't do that. You're my sister. You can't become a man." Because I'd never heard of the word transgender, didn't know it existed. And it wasn't actually until one of soap opera, Hollyoaks, they did a storyline about the same time of transgender. And I thought, well, that sounds similar to what my twin's going through. And so then we started to research into it and look more into it, and I was still, this doesn't make sense, my mind's kind of, because I thought, I've lost my twin completely, I'm never going to have the same life. Matt was starting to cut his hair shorter and shorter, but at school as well, it was hard, because people were noticing that you've got the faggot twin, you've got the tranny twin. And I didn't know, for me I was still trying to get my head around it, but I didn't accept it, but I sure as hell wasn't going to let anybody say a bad word. So if somebody would say something bad to me, I would go on the defence, go, "No, there's nothing wrong with it, is there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, there is." But I was actually getting abused by one of my closest friends because they didn't accept it either. They would always say, only real men can come with us, so your twin can't come along. But I would get hit and I would get shouted at, and it all sparked a huge thing, which has thankfully been resolved. But it took me about 2 years before I could finally say the name Matt. I refused point blank to say it. Nobody in the school would say it. Teachers didn't like it. We had one teacher who failed Matt on an essay, which was a personal reflective, so you to write about your own life, and he failed him because he wrote about transgender and said, "That's not right, you can't do that, we don't accept that." And for me, I don't understand why a teacher would fail it, because it's English. It was fine English. It's not life studies class or whatever. But what I've noticed is with schools, especially the school I went to, nobody dare spoke of the word transgender. Nobody spoke about being gay. If you were gay, you were the scum of the earth. No, you're transgender. You were the freak. Nobody would talk to you. You would get shunned from every classroom. You wouldn't be able to do PE because it was split sections, girls and boys. And obviously with Matt, he was put to the girls' class, and no, not doing it, can't do it. So it was a bit confusing, and like I said, it took me about 2 years to realise that this is actually not a scary thing. I've not lost an entire human being. He's actually just becoming who he's always meant to have been. And it helped when he started taking testosterone. injections to obviously start making more male hormones, and the voice started to deepen. So that was a bit more like, oh, it's all clicked into place now, it's not so bad. So when I joined college, I started doing transgender awareness talks to my classes and around the college, because I've noticed that more and more people there will use the word tranny, faggot, gay, lesbo, and not realise that it's offensive or it's discriminating people. And if I did challenge it, they would say, but it's what I've always said. But it doesn't matter if you've always said it, it's not right. So I started doing it and explaining to them that this is what transgender is. It's not like the Rocky Horror Picture Show where they all wear corsets and stockings and that. They're not trannies, they're not transsexuals, they're normal people. And the amount of people that they see on TV, like, oh, I didn't realise that they were transgender. Well, no, it's not a big sign above them going, transgender, here. And there's no mould. Which I'm glad there's no mould, because, like was been mentioned before, society, we don't need to conform into society. Society should conform around what we like, what we want. Schools are horrific, I've found recently, with especially transphobic bullying. Homophobic bullying seems to be going down, thankfully, that I've noticed, because more awareness has come around of it, more acceptance has come around of it, and less people are feeling scared to come out to their peers. But transphobic, I think that nobody knows still what it means. It's coming out more in the media and in newspapers, but it's still the scare stories. And it's still the bad stories that are coming out, not real people's events, real people's stories. Like you get on TV, the documentaries, but it's the extreme side that people instantly come out as transgender, and everybody they know loves them instantly, and you think, well, I could do that, and then it's the bad side of it. Like, there's people I've known who they've come out as transgender and they've been thrown down the stairs because their parents couldn't accept them. There's people I know who are no longer here because of transphobic bullying. They've taken their own lives, and that's many people I've known. But thankfully with Matt, he's not, because I don't think I'd be able to handle it if my own twin went away, because that'd be selfish. But with schools, it's horrific. There's nobody, when I was at school, nobody knew what transgender meant. Or if you did mention it, they'd think it was, like, they would instantly say, oh, you mean like Frankenfire from Rocky Horror? No, not that. But nobody knew what it meant. The teachers didn't know what it meant, so they didn't know how to handle it. But going to college, more and more know what it means, or understand the broad umbrella of what transgender is. And there's more support, I see, in colleges and universities, and hopefully more schools now, with transgender especially, because it was a horrific experience that me and Matt went through, because nobody understood and they discriminated against everyone. Thank you.
My turn now. Like Jordan has been saying, school wasn't as easy as some people make out. Some people go into school, do all their essays, have some friends, out they go. Ours wasn't as simple as that. It wasn't really that easy. One teacher in particular, our English teacher, was not very nice. We had to write loads of essays, like Jordan has said, and one of them I particularly wrote about how I felt within my own gender. I was still identifying as female when I was at school, but I was slowly coming out as male to my friends and to some of the teachers. And he failed me on it because he didn't agree with it. He was very homophobic openly to one of the other pupils in the class. So the pupil, Liam, would come in to annoy him. Would come in wearing high heels, with makeup, with little skirts, and would get thrown back out the class. So he'd come back in wearing even more. But it was not right that he kept throwing him out, so he kept winding him up more and more. So we kept trying to challenge our teacher, but he said, no, it's nothing wrong with it. I have gay friends. which I hear all the time from people who are homophobic, biphobic, transphobic, is, oh, I know somebody who's gay, I know somebody who's lesbian, I know a trans person, which doesn't matter. I could know an Asian person and still be prejudiced against Asians. Doesn't mean that just because I know somebody, or maybe know somebody who knows another person, I'm not against that person. So our school wasn't very good. Our head teacher was very ignorant to a lot of things. Because there was not much support within the school, I tried to open up an LGBT youth group, or youth meetings in the school maybe once a month for young LGBT people to come from the school to talk, or maybe gain a bit more experience about what LGBT actually stood for. I handed out flyers, gave out little information for people to sign, and we got maybe close to 500 signatures. Handed it to the head teacher, and he said, no, we don't want it, we don't want a fag class here. And I was very hard. We spent months signing all these paperwork. We got flyers set up. We got teachers who said, yes, we'll have this. This will be a very good idea. And the head teacher went, no, we don't want a fag class. There should be one around anyway. Why don't you just try and get one somewhere else? And that really hurt us because we wanted this. This is what people wanted, 500 signatures. And people went, no. Then the head teacher has always been like that though. I have a youth worker that I work with, Katrina, for a young charity who works with physical health and mental health within LGBT people. And she's been trying to get into the school about 17 times. She's written to the school, handwritten and emailed to try and get into the school to do a young LGBT talk. And the school went, no, we're a Christian group. The school is not a Christian school. That's what the excuse is. We're a Christian school, we don't want that to come in. If you're a Christian-based charity, we'll let you come in. But they're not. They're a charity done by LGBT people for young LGBT people. They're not a Christian-run charity, so that should not be an excuse for them not to be able to come in to the school. The school has always been sort of, not corrupt, but very prejudiced against people. The teachers wouldn't talk about LGBT, especially in sex education. That was a very tough time for me, personally, and I think some other LGBT people within the school that I knew, we weren't allowed to say the word gay, lesbian, same-sex relationship was a no-no, condoms weren't even allowed to be talked about. It was either STIs or nothing. That was our sex education. I asked about gay relationships and got told, nope, shut up, not allowed to talk about that. Like it was still like Section 28 in our school. It's like that never left. You start talking about it, you get in trouble. So that made people start getting very quiet very quickly. And the most confusing thing was with PE. PE it was either boys class, girls class, and then we had a mixed class for if the classes got a bit too big, so they sort of separated them off into a different class. And I always asked, can I get put into the mixed classes? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. The teacher was I don't think she liked a lot of the students. She just sort of sat back, chilled. If somebody got hurt, off you go to the nurse. No, she didn't really care. And then one day she decided, no, all the classes into the PE hall is only going to be girls' classes and boys' classes. I got put into one of the girls' classes and I wasn't happy. I had explained to her that I need to be in a mixed class, but didn't tell her I was actually transgender. So I was not happy. I told her, no, can I please be put into a mixed class? Because there's only one left in the whole school. And she went, no, you have no need to go into that. And I didn't want to explain my personal life to her. I had no need to explain it to her. And so I just left. She didn't bother chasing me. She was like, no, don't need to. One of my friends came after me and asked why I'd run out the class. And I said that I was actually transgender, I felt male. And she said, well, I'll go explain it to the teacher then. So she had, and the teacher said, nope, you're staying in the girls' class. You are a girl, you are staying in the girls' class. And that felt really bad, so I had to stay in the library for 7 months of PE because she couldn't be bothered to put me into a mixed class or even try and talk to somebody to get me into a mixed class. I'm talking from a personal experience. Some people may have similar experiences, some might have even better experiences, or maybe some worse. Some worse that I've heard are not very good. Some of them are from American schools, but some from British schools as well. My experience has been quite bad, but I know there's been worse out there, but there's also been better. I went to college after. I left high school about 3 years ago. I went to college straight away and started coming out as myself, starting to explore what I like, what I don't like, and started transitioning more into a male as I am now. And college was much easier. People were a lot more accepting. I explained to my lecturers first off this is who I am, and they were asking first off, okay, what do you want to be called? Do you need any special help, like with bathrooms? And I said, no, I'll be fine with the bathrooms. There was one student there that started, first day, we hadn't even spoken to each other. He didn't even know my name. And first day he came up going, hey, lady boy. And I was like, who, me? Looking around in case there was somebody or somebody was talking about it, or it was a nickname he gave to a friend. He's like, no, you, hey, lady boy. And so I went straight to my lecturer, and the lecturer was like, no, that's bang out, no. So he got kicked out of the course quite quickly because of his homophobic attitude. And I felt quite happy. I was like, why couldn't my high school do this for me? Why couldn't they have done something? But the college was very supportive. Anything I needed or anything that was wrong, they dealt with very quickly and very discreetly without making a big fuss or banging drums to announce everyone that this was happening. I then started doing some LGBT awareness within this college, putting up posters and becoming the LGBT ambassador. And we got talks given around the school for LGBT from LGBT Youth Scotland, which is based in Glasgow. And they came around doing some talks, and there was very, very good reception. A lot of people came away with a lot of good information. And I felt really happy that there was that people were getting information, because that's what I wanted to do in the high school, that people, because they're so young and maybe slightly naive in high school, that they could have had a bit more experience, a bit more awareness, a bit more information, than having to leave with that naivety or that ignorance that they were ingrained with in high school. A lot of it was maybe from the parents, some of it was from the school itself. I think very little of it was personal to them, because I don't think homophobia, transphobia is, you're born, no, I don't like this person. It's, a lot of it will be ingrained within it, or don't talk to them, they're gay. You won't want to talk to them, somebody's told you not to talk to them. Don't look at them, they're trans, they might come on to you. Well, I won't do that then. It's not going to be something that you're born with hating. I think that a lot of these thoughts, especially through school, through younger people, should be taught quite openly, should be talked about quite openly, and maybe discussed quite openly within high schools to try and minimise transphobia and homophobia within the education system. Thank you.